NXT starts off with Joe Hendry. He cuts a promo. He ends up mentioning Trick Williams. He mentions Trick Williams attacking him on TNA. He ends up mentioning that Trick Williams has changed. Mentioned that Trick Williams constantly can't take accountability, and ends up saying that he's going to get payback on Trick Williams. And then you end up getting him calling out Trick Williams, but then you end up getting Darkstate coming out instead, and they end up jumping him and ends up attacking him. Very I'm interested to see where that goes. I am a bit confused on why Darkstate attacked Joe Hendry, to be honest. I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand what would be their motivations to attack Joe Hendry, to be honest. I get that they're just attacking everybody, but it seems like they're just attacking people for no reason though, because they did this with Trick Williams, they did it with Oba, they did it with the D'Angelo family. I am curious to understand what is their end goal. Now I know part of the reasoning for them attacking is that they're tired of people taking opportunities that they feel like they deserve. I feel like I get that point, but at some point I do feel like we need to get them move forward with them just attacking people. We need them to actually go after something of substance eventually instead of them just attacking. I like the story, but I do think it needs to progress somewhat. We need to see more character development, have them have more segments of them showing their personality, show more of their motivation instead of just them just attacking random people on the main roster. It's cool to see, I will say that, but we need a little bit more. We need a little bit more. I'm just saying. This actually happened later in the show, but I might as well discuss it now. This does transition into Trick Williams. He ends up having a segment. He basically ends up mentioning Joe Hendry, mention him attacking Joe Hendry on TNA, and he basically ends up then alluding to Opa Femi, ends up saying that he wants his NXT title back. You end up getting Ava. She comes out and she basically is tired of Trick Williams, crashing out, and ends up saying that if Trick Williams wants another shot, he needs to prove it. He basically needs to prove it, and he needs to be worthy of it. So she ends up setting up a 25-man battle royal next week, number one contendership match. So that should be interesting. Now, that could go multiple ways. You could either have Trick Williams win the match, or since Trick Williams attacked, technically speaking, yeah, since Trick Williams attacked Joe Hendry, you could easily have Joe Hendry come out, interfere in the match, or you could have Joe Hendry in the match and have him win, and they could eat, or you could do a thing where some type of shenanigans happen, and then maybe they could do another triple threat. Either way, it should be interesting. I'm interested to see how that plays out. Me personally, I hope it's not interference, but I feel like Joe Hendry is probably going to interfere because Joe Hendry does want revenge on Trick Williams, so I'm assuming it's going to be some type of interference. Yeah, I don't want it to be, but I feel like that's probably the route they're going to go. Now, my only question is, if Joe Hendry interferes and costs Trick Williams the match, who wins that match? Because the only other option I could think of is Javon Evans, but I don't think Javon Evans should be back in the title picture right now, at least. That's just me. Because if you're just gonna have him lose to Obafemi again, I just don't see the point. So that's why I said I don't really want to see Joe Hendry interfere in the match, because Trick Williams is kind of the best choice, and he's kind of your only choice unless you're doing Javon Evans, because that men's division is very thin. So I don't know what they're going to do here, but it is very interesting to see how that plays out. Afterwards, we end up getting Ricky Saints versus Lexis King. Not going to really go that in depth on this match. It was a fine match. Ricky Saints ends up picking up the victory. Still interested to see what he does with the North American Championship. Interested to see who his other opponents are going to be. Battleground is coming up next month, so I'm interested to see who he face and what the build will be towards that, because again, the NXT men's division is very thin, and all the people that he could potentially feud with are very busy. Can't feud, well, Trick Williams and Oba, he was never going to feud with. But Javon Evans, we don't know what they're doing with him, and plus he's a babyface, so that doesn't make sense. You have Ethan Page, who he just beat, and it doesn't look like they're going to run that feud again, so that's kind of an issue. And Tony D'Angelo, he's feuding with Stacks, so it's like all the this is why I'm saying that they need to start building up Darkstate and start pushing that story forward, because the men's division, it's lacking a bit, and plus all the top people you would put stories in are busy with other stories, so they really need to start pushing other talent to get the ball rolling on the men's division, because the men's division is a bit lacking right now. After this though, we end up getting the best thing on the show. Tony D'Angelo, we end up having his segment. He ends up mentioning Stacks, mentions their friendship, mention the things they've been through, mention Stacks betraying him. he ends up saying that Stacks always wanted to leave the family, and he ended up showing his worth and proving why I made him the underboss. But he also said that his reckless decision making is the reason why he was the Don and he made all the decisions, and his reckless decisions almost put the family at risk. You end up getting Stacks. He responds. He was on the Tinetron. He wasn't on the show. Well, in the arena. He pops on the Tinetron. He basically ends up saying that he was tired of taking orders from Tony, and that Tony has gotten soft, and that his soft decision making is the reason why people like Darkstate attacked him, and that Tony D'Angelo isn't capable of leading the family anymore, and that Tony D'Angelo is constantly losing more and more power, and that he doesn't know who he could trust anymore. Then you end up getting Tony D'Angelo turning around. Security tries to attack him, but he ends up taking him out. And Tony D'Angelo basically ends up responding. He ends up saying that, look, if you want to be the Don, if you want to rule the family, you got to take it. This was good. This was a really good segment. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait for them to have an actual face-to-face interaction. This is definitely going to lead into Battleground, I'm assuming. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. But this was easily the best thing on the show. This was really good. I'm really excited for this feud, and this was a great back and forth, man. I can't wait to see how this story plays out. After this, we end up getting Metaphor. They finally broke up. Thank God. I have been wanting this group to break up for the longest time. Thank God. Now, they broke up on good terms, so that was good. We didn't need some heel turn or fake. We didn't need none of that. I'm glad that they broke up because they did not need to be a group. And plus, it made no sense for them to be a group since all of them are all doing their own things. You got Oro, who's not even on NXT anymore. He's been on Evolve. Noam Dar just made his return. Now, I am curious to see how this plays out because they end up having because Lash ended up telling Jakara that she needs to be her own person. Because they end up breaking up basically saying that they all need to be their own stars and do their own thing, basically. Now, if they're all going to do their own thing, I am kind of concerned because I like Lash and Jakara as a tag team. Now, the thing is, I have been saying this, that I think Jakara is just better than Lash. I think she has higher upside, but the problem is that I already know that Lash is going to be booked better than Jakara. That's kind of my only fear with this because that's kind of why I wish they was kind of stuck as a tag team because I already know that in the future Lash is going to get the bigger push than Jakara. So it's like, but that's more of me being biased if I'm being honest. But we'll see where this goes, mainly for the women, because I don't see them doing anything with Noam or it's really Lash and Jakara that I'm really interested to see where they go with this story. Afterwards, we ended up getting Ruka versus Carmen Petrovic. This was a solid match. This was her first title defense for the Women's North American Championship. Ruka picks up the victory, but afterwards, we ended up getting a segment between Zarya, and Carmen Petrovic. No, not Carmen Petrovic. It's Kalani. That's who I'm thinking of. Kalani Jordan. Kalani ends up, talking some trash. Was about to say that if she, they end up going back and forth. Was about to put her title on the line, but Zarya steps in, ends up saying that she doesn't need to do that. She worked so hard for it, and that she shouldn't just be giving out random title opportunities. So Zarya ends up saying that if she wants a title match, Kalani will have to beat her instead. This is clearly playing up the story of Zarya eventually, going to be the one to eventually betray Ruka. They already showing teasers of her constantly staring at the North American Championship, and she don't want nobody else getting close to the North American title, so it makes sense. I'm assuming Zarya will probably win that match, or if she does lose, it's going to be some type of distraction, but I'm assuming Zarya will win that match, and she'd probably be the number one contender for that title. So, interesting to see how that plays out. Now we end up getting Chase U. Alright, Chase U is officially back, and I'm going to rant a little bit here. This is terrible. This is so stupid. I don't understand it. I don't get it, because this just made everything that Chase went through pointless. You wasted all of that storytelling of Ridge, Thea Hill, Riley, everything just pointless. I don't understand what was the point of getting rid of Chase U for a few months just to bring it back. Now, here's the thing. I wouldn't mind them bringing it back if you told the story correctly. Because the story that they was trying to tell was that Andre Chase made a mistake. He put the school at jeopardy, and that he put his friends at jeopardy. That would have been a cool story to tell if they told it right. But what they ended up doing, they wrote Thea Hill off TV, Riley off TV, and they released Duke Hudson. And then they end up telling the story of Andre Chase just moping around sad all day. And you just get two randoms NXT guys. I forget. I think one of them is Kale, one of them named Connor. just being these weird obsessed guys with Chase. That's the story they told. This story would have worked if you would have had Thea Hale, Riley, and I understand Duke got released. So all they had to do was really just have Thea Hale and Riley be upset at Andre Chase. Andre Chase tries to earn his trust back with them, and then they build the school back together. That would have been a better but this right here was just pointless. I don't understand it. This just felt like that they just did this just because they had nothing else to do with Andre Chase. That's what this feels like, because this story doesn't make sense. It just ruined everything that they've been building up with Ridge. Now I'm not saying Ridge was going to be a main eventer or anything, but I feel like that if you was going to just do this, then there was no point of Ridge Holland ever. I just don't get it. I don't understand. You could have used someone else to do that story to elevate if you was just going to do. The story should have just been executed differently. I don't like this. I feel like this was just dumb, but we'll see how this plays out. I'm probably not going to review Chase U at all, to be honest, unless they have a big story. But we'll see how this plays out. Now we get the main event: Roxanne Perez, Julia versus Io Sky and Jordan Grace. Io Sky and Jordan Grace wins. I don't really need to discuss this match. This match was very predictable. You're not going to have your WWE Women's Champion lose. I mean, well, World Heavyweight Champion lose. You're not going to have her lose. But this does set up a title match because Stephanie Vaquero ended up having a segment with Ava. And there's going to be a number one contendership match between Jordan Grace and Julia. So we'll see who ends up winning that match next week. Overall, this was a good, solid show. I enjoyed it for what it was. It was a good, solid show. You guys let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. But yeah, that's it.